Yeah, the wide receiver market is weird right
What's
now.
next? All
So
right,
yeah,
everybody.
trade away all your Lab McConkey shares for Jameson Williams and come back here and roast me in the comments.
All right, welcome back to the desk.
Welcome back, baby.
So it is summertime. The living's easy, the weather's hot, and it is time to shake up wide receiver rankings from what we had a few months ago pre-NFL draft.
Yeah, the wide receiver market is weird right now. So we're going to go through what our value tiers are at the moment, what we think you should pay to move between value tiers or even within a tier. There's definitely some differences from our rankings and the market, but that's okay. And we'll also go through how we think guys fit up in like a contender versus a rebuilder versus a neutral team. So, Cars,
Absolutely.
why don't you kick us off with the top guys, the S tier?
Yes, we're talking about elite expectations, no question marks. Three guys fall into this category. Chase, Puka, JSN. They've got 16 plus point per game upside or guarantee with 20 plus per game upside. Heck, some of these guys will even get you into the 30s a couple times during the year. Younger, relatively, if not fully injury free. That's what we're looking for. It's pretty clear. Three guys and three guys only.
I would agree with that. And the A tier, I think, is extremely close to the S tier. What I'm calling these are the elite expectations with one question mark.
Mm.
Whether that is injury history, that they haven't quite done it yet, but we're pretty sure this is the year, or guys that are just getting a little bit older.
Mm.
So the ones that are getting a little bit older, the sort of contending guys are uh, Justin Jefferson, CD Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think these guys have basically the exact same ceiling
Mm.
as the guys in the S tier. It's just that because of their age, they're probably going to start sliding in value in a year that they don't hit top 3 wide receiver finish
Right.
overall.
Right.
And then, Neighbors and London, I really like these guys on rebuilding rosters. Neither of them I hate on contenders either. It's just that you could see slower starts.
Mm.
So temper expectations a bit, but I mean, these 8 guys in total among these 2 tiers are really in a league of their own in comparison. So, Carson, if you were going to move between these 2 tiers, what would be your expectation? If you were going from Chase to Neighbors or vice versa, what
Mm.
would you be willing to pay? What would you be willing to accept?
Yeah. So I guess let me start by saying it would be difficult for me to move down from the elite tier. I would need to get something that I'm very comfortable with in return, and it also would depend kind of on my roster construction. So I look at it from two quick ways. One, let's say I'm a contender. If I'm a contender, then I'm not opposed to tearing down to a CD Lamb or Justin Jefferson or Amon-Ra. Like you said, the ceilings relatively the same, but I would look to add an additional high producer piece there that would give me some more scoring. So this could be like a Devontae if he's having another kick at year, or maybe a Mike Evans. So one of these last dance guys, Josh Jacobs, who I'm expecting high output for this year, so I can go win my league. If I'm in the rebuilding section, then maybe I tear down, like you were saying a minute ago, to a Neighbors or somebody, and then I'm looking for either young capital or somebody who's highly liquid that I could flip for a player that I want. So those are the things I would be looking for if I were going to tear down to begin with. But
I feel
let's hear your
pretty
let's hear your
similar.
opinion on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel pretty similar. I'm not willing to pay a random 27 first or a mid 27 first to move up. I think these tiers are too close together. Um, but like you said, if you've got a rebuilding team that wants to move from Chase to Neighbors and get a early second round pick or a Travis Hunter type player, then I'm okay with that. And vice versa, if you're a guy with Puka and you've got a deal that you can get Justin Jefferson and a Michael Pittman and a Terry McLaurin, I'm okay with that kind of deal too. Something in that like 8th to 10th round startup value feels about right. That brings us down though to B tier.
Mm-hmm.
which I'm going to call the insulation station.
Hmm.
This is a really small tier of two super young receivers, Carnell Tate and Seth McMillan. And I don't expect these guys to finish this year as a wide receiver one. I think they could. But I think even if they don't, even if they're like mid wide receiver twos, maybe even low end wide receiver twos, they're likely to maintain value because their age, prospect profile, and draft capital. So I think these guys are decent tier down targets from your Lamb Jettis and ARSB if the neighbors and London owners aren't really doing pivot type moves.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can value insulate, and I think you can demand a pretty big premium. At the same time, I think if you have one of these guys and you want to go contend, you can move down a tier as well. Pick up like an AJ Brown, T. Higgins, Nico Collins, guys that have a higher 1 year upside and another piece and another positional upgrade.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's interesting that you have Tate in the same spot as Tet, because to me,
Yeah, I can explain that.
yeah,
Tet McMillan scored like 13 fantasy points last year, and he went from being a late mid third round startup pick to like the 1-2 turn. So what does Tate have to do? Almost nothing, just
yeah,
to maintain or go up in value. And I think he's got basically the same situation that Tet walked into, where
mm-hmm.
he's the top 10 pick, walking into a completely free wide receiver room. And I think Cam Ward's probably a better passer than Bryce Young. I think the Titans are going to throw more. So I don't really see the downside case. That's why I've got the two of them ranked there together. I think even if they face plant, they still maintain value, and there's upside there.
So
Whereas a
it's
lot of the
kind of like the
guys,
Marvin Harrison situation of a few years back. Even if he face
yes,
plants, it's like, well, the team's so bad, he just needs a different scenery, like the potential on paper's there type thing.
yep, exactly. It's just a value preservation tier, and I
Okay.
think this tier offers value preservation that the one underneath it doesn't. So
Mm-hmm.
let's kick off to that one.
Yeah, this is the upside but serious questions tier, and this is your boom bust tier to me. Wide selection. You've got what we're looking at mid third to the seventh round for some of these guys. So we're talking many picks in. Um, you know, everybody's going to have their individual preferences within this tier of where you should take, a Pickens or an Abuka or a Tyson. You got the young, the old, all of it. But it's kind of like, these guys either have been league winners in the past or they're super young and they could be a league winner
Yep.
in my mind. So yeah, I kind of mentioned a few of them, but your boom bust. So your Abuka, Tyson, Ladd, BTJ. You've also got your expected producers, so Pickens, Olave, Wilson, AJ Brown, those guys.
Yeah, I think if we get flack in the comments, it's going to be from this section. Everything else has been pretty chalk so far, but for people to say that you've got, JMO and Jaden Waddle in the same tier as Chris Olave and Emeka Egbuka, that's crazy. And I would remind you that this time last year, Chris Olave and Emeka Egbuka were like 7th, 8th round startup picks, and now they're 3rd round picks. Guys like Nico were 2nd round picks, and now they're 4th. BTJ was a 1-2 turn guy, now he's a 6th. There's just a ton of volatility in this range. George Pickens was a 7th round pick, now he's a 3rd. So if guys in this range hit, they go up to somewhere between the mid
Fourth and
4th
third.
and, early 3rd round. And if they miss, they drop down to the 6th, 7th round. And I genuinely don't think you can say BTJ has no chance to return to a 3rd round pick and George Pickens is locked in as a 3rd round guy.
Mm.
I would take Pickens over BTJ in a startup if I was forced to stick and pick, but I genuinely think these guys are in the same tier. And I do think the expected producers belong here. I think it's a real decision on whether you would take a Rashee Rice or an Emeka Egbuka on whether you take a T. Higgins or a Luther Burden. Um, so this range is also highly liquid. I like owning these guys. I like ping-ponging them around, picking up value wins where I can. And I'm happy if I end up with a bunch of guys toward the lower end of this tier and just take the shot that they have further to rise. A lot of my teams are pretty barren in terms of the upper end of this tier, the Garrett Wilson, the Chris Olave, the Emeka Egbuka, but I've got a lot of the BTJ, Devonta Smith,
Mhm.
AJ Brown, T. Higgins, JMO side of this tier. So I'm excited to see how it pans out this year.
I like
So
it.
let
I
us
like
know in the comments because this is where we could really get roasted.
And that brings us kind of to our last tier because we're not going to go all the way down to the to the bottom of the barrel here.
And we're not
But
doing 150 player.
no, God no. But the D tier, the lower upside, lot of questions tier. Talk to me about those.
I'd say there's three distinct groups here. This spans everything probably from the mid seventh of startups down to like the 12th, 13th round.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than listing them out as sort of like seventh, eighth, ninth round picks,
Mm-hmm.
I think this is where like roster construction and how they fit into your lineup matters more.
Yeah.
So I would say there's three sections. There's the gamblers,
Mm-hmm.
your Travis Hunters of the world, the cheap insulation guys, your Jordan Addison, Wandale Robinson,
You
Quentin
kind of know
Johnson kind of
exactly what you're going
guys.
to get on a low end spectrum. Yeah.
Yeah, low end wide receiver two. Maybe if they have a bad season, like wide receiver 3 or 4, but they're startable. And then you've got, the wheelchair brigade, the the 1 year rental, Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, DJ Moore, where one or two of these guys is probably going to sneak in and be a wide receiver one in terms
Yeah.
of redraft. And really
Every,
have,
every year it happens. I mean,
yeah,
every Devontae Adams last year, you had 1,000-yard Mike like every year prior to that. I mean, you've
yep,
got guys who every single year you think there's no freaking way. There's no
yeah.
way. And then they just do it again.
But they all won't be,
Well,
right?
yeah,
And the ones that don't, or even the ones that do, they're not preserving any value,
no,
right? So this is points in your wide receiver slot, points in your flex spot, and you're happy about it.
yes. Wheelchair brigade. Dang.
Got him. Yeah, we'll leave the images on the screen that have the names of all the guys, or probably not the names, probably just the faces, because that's a lot of editing. But the fundamentals for this tier are just there's questions, there's not as much upside. Either there's points upside or value upside, but probably not both.
All right. And that's the shakeup. Hey guys, thanks for making it to the end of the video. If you don't mind, like and subscribe below.
And if you want a free roster review, check out the Google form in the description. Your team could be featured in one of our videos. See you in the next one.